To be there and to be part of that was a tremendous experience, and it was a fabulous concert.
Birthday party.
There was this incredible lineup of these world-famous bands and figures.
It made you feel great to be alive. I don't have the words to describe how I felt. I say it was exhilarating.
It was electric, and you felt this was something really big.
Pump it up! Pump it up! Like this here! Pump it up, everybody! Come on! Pump it up! Let me see your fists in the air! Come on, everybody! Let me see your fists!
It was a fantastic illustration of how you could move people globally using the arts and culture.
It was the biggest, the most powerful, the greatest pop political event I think there's ever been.
It was in itself sort of like kind of record-breaking event.
It should be first and foremost good entertainment, but
Velkommen til Wembley. Vanligvis en
da visita de Nelson Mandela a Londres será a homenagem que ele vai receber amanhã.
All right, so what you've just seen are clips from the documentary One Humanity. On Sunday, that's Freedom Day here in South Africa, the project will be launched to the world in Pretoria. It documents the making of the globally successful Nelson Mandela's 70th birthday tribute in Wembley Stadium in London in 1988, and then the follow-up concert, the Nelson Mandela tribute to a free South Africa, and that was in 1990. Well, here to tell us about the launch and more about the documentary is the man who started it all, Tony Hollingsworth. Tony, it's so good to see you again.
Good morning. Yes.
Welcome. So this is a feature documentary. Is it basically, how does it work? Give us a bit of background.
Well, it's been directed by Mickey Dubie, a wonderful South African director who's created a celluloid tapestry that brings together the performances that were in those two global broadcast events, each to 100 countries, with the politics of the time being from building from 1946 all the way through to 1994, the pressures around the world and the pressures here as well, to end apartheid. And he has this wonderful way of marrying the music, the performances, and this historical storyline. So it isn't a dry documentary, it's a feature documentary, like a feature film.
Yeah.
It's exciting, it has wonderful performances in it, and it's dramatic.
Lovely, and it's got all the background info that we didn't even know was happening behind the scenes. You say in 1946. Why 1946?
Well, in 1946, the Indian Congress here asked Mrs. Pandit, the sister of Nehru in India, to go to the United Nations. It was almost a brand new United Nations, 1946, and put down a motion against racist South Africa, which she did, and she won against Smuts. Yeah. She won the resolution there. And then shortly after that, India becomes free of the British Empire and puts sanctions down against South Africa, which were very costly to India. They were not rich, and they lost 5% of their trade through doing that. But they did it as a point of honor, and they were the first country to stand in solidarity against the racist and apartheid regime.
Yeah. So this would almost be a natural follow-on from the concerts because, I mean, it's been a long time. You know, are we celebrating 20 years of democracy? Yeah. It makes sense that something like this is released. Have you spoken to a couple of the artists and the people that were involved in those days now, in this day and age?
Well, we've interviewed quite a number of the artists that were involved in the events themselves. So Caiaphas, Jonas, Peter Gabriel, Annie Lennox, etc. They're all in the film talking about it as well. But what the film does is not only, for instance, Peter Gabriel talks about why he wrote Biko, and that takes us into a whole bit of history around Biko's time. Jerry Dammers talks about why he wrote Free Nelson Mandela. And that actually takes us, interestingly, in the film, into Ahmed Kathrada, talking about the first Free Nelson Mandela campaign around the black man in a white man's court trial. So there are interesting ways in which the music and the song takes us into bits of history.
Yeah.
But it's such a warm way that it does it all. It's such a celebratory way that it does it all that's very, very fit to come out on the 20th anniversary of democracy.
So we're seeing visuals here of Madiba walking, and actually there's our President Jacob Zuma next to him, and just reminiscing of that time. Now, let me take South Africans to behind the scenes when Mandela was about to be released from prison. You were one of the very first people to actually know that his release was imminent. I imagine that knowledge was massive for you, and especially in the organising of that second concert.
Yes, well, I was approached by Ishmael Ayoub, Mandela's lawyer at the time, to say, would I produce a second event so that he would have another global platform, but this time for him to speak from and remind the world that his release was not the end of apartheid and that everyone needed to keep the pressure up until there were free elections at the time. So I did know that it was imminent. The very strange thing is I was organising an event for a date I didn't know when it was.
Yes, yeah, that's tough.
So that was really difficult to do that on a global basis. But 54 days after he was released, we did the second event. But those two events are the only time in history that the world's broadcasters, 100 of them, have come together for a political cause. And this film, which we're premiering at the Atterbury Theatre on Sunday afternoon as part of Freedom Day, with many very important guests at the event itself. That film asks the question, how could have they been possible?
Yeah.
And of course, to say why have they, it has to put everything in the historical context of all the pressures that were building against apartheid, and also what then happened in 1985, 86, 87, 88 as the Cold War ended and the support for the apartheid regime disappeared, and all those pressures could then win through. So the music, the stars that are in the film are mixed together with this really powerful historical storytelling, which Mickey Dooby, the director, does so well.
You can imagine, because the first time such a political broadcast, I don't believe that anything like that can be pulled off again in this day and age. But I mean, that was then on behalf of a person that we didn't even have pictures of. That was in 1988. Then 1990 he was there. I want to talk to you forever. I always do. I love speaking to you. But we have to wrap this interview. But one thing, just before you go, the Sunday launch is actually going to be simulcast between London and South Africa. How's it going to work?
Yes. So we're launching it at the premiere here on Sunday afternoon. Guests arrive at 4 o'clock. And then we have a little reception, and then we run the film, and then we run a 1-hour discussion afterwards.
Yes.
Exactly the same thing is happening at BAFTA. It's a very prestigious location in London, the British Academy of Film and Television Arts. And exactly the same thing is happening in London, a reception, the film, and then an after-panel discussion. And the discussions are linked up so that we're actually having a discussion on stage about the history and the film and what it means for the next 20-odd years of democracy and things. And we're linking that discussion with London as well.
Fantastic.
So it will be BAFTA here and the Atterbury Theatre, and guests are arriving at the Atterbury Theatre at 4 o'clock on Sunday.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tony, for popping by and coming to talk to us about this, feature documentary called One Humanity that will be released on Sunday, and then hopefully most South Africans will be able to see it at cinemas or on TV.
Yes, and I think we may be putting it on television very fast.
That's what we want. That's what we want. All right, thank you so much. Let's take a break. We'll leave you with the visuals from that concert back in 1988 and 1990.
It made you feel great to be alive. I don't have the words to describe how I felt. I say it was exhilarating.
It was electric, and you felt this was something really big.
Pump it up! Pump it up! Like this here! Pump it up, everybody! Come on! Pump it up! Let me see your fists in the air!